Hello and welcome everybody to part 4, the final part of our 4-part series where Cisco is helping Cisco Unified Communications Manager customers migrate to the cloud with a Cisco UCM Cloud or HCS solution. I'm your host, David Leach. I'm a product marketing manager here at Cisco, and I support UCM, UCM Cloud, and HCS solutions. And I am joined today by Patrick Bourne, a technical marketing engineer for UCM Cloud Solutions. Patrick, how are you this fine, fantastic day?
Hello, David. I'm very well, thank you.
Excellent. Great to see you. Great. Thank you for joining me. So, Patrick, this is our 4th video in this series. We've covered the strategy, the planning, the preparation, all the different things that a customer needs to do to get ready for that cloud migration. And now I think we're ready to jump in and actually do the cloud migration. So what do we do next? What is the next step in this process here?
Okay, so it's kind of a long question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten it and give you like the 10,000-foot view, just to give you broad strokes, if you will. So essentially, what you're going to do, as you mentioned, as we spoke about in the previous one, we're going to let our users know that there's a change coming and they shouldn't notice anything. We're going to let our administrators know that there is a change coming, and they'll get to do a little bit less of the stuff they don't like doing, and a little bit more of it, and they'll have time to do a little bit more of the stuff they like doing. So that's the fluffy bits around it, but the real technical side of it is what's going to be happening is Cisco is going to hand over the keys to the UCM cluster in the cloud to you, the partner, or if you're doing it, you, the customer, whoever is responsible for it. And what that means is you've essentially got a freshly installed UCM cluster, just like you know and love on-prem, except it's not on your premises, it's in Cisco's cloud, nice and secure and running all the time. So that means you as the administrator, you're going to do things like you would normally do on a cluster. You're going to configure you're going to get certificates, you're going to get your certificate signed, all those good things. Then you're going to build up a parallel environment exactly the same, if you choose, as your one on-premise, on your premises. When that's done, what you're going to do is then swing your phones over by changing your DNS SRV record, your service record, to point to the UCM publisher in the cloud. Then when the phones restart, they will register in the cloud. Now, of course, the technical folk are now jumping up and down and saying, wait, the phones trust my on-premises UCM. They don't trust the cloud. Therefore, they're not going to register. Exactly. So we got a way to help you around that. And so we're very excited to speak about the Cisco UCM Cloud Migration Assistant utility. Essentially, it's an OVA that you deploy, and it's a tool that will it'll take a lot of the mundaneness out of this migration, because you can imagine, let's say you got a few thousand users and each of them got multiple devices with specific configurations, and it's a job you don't want to do. So you're going to give it to the person you dislike the least, but you trust the most, because it's so easy to make an error when you're doing all these things. You know, it's lots and lots of opportunity for human error to creep in. So that's what the Migration Assistant utility does. You still have to configure some of the basics, like I said, your certificates, your trunks, and all those good things on your basic infrastructure. Then you let this Migration Assistant utility loose. And what it will do is actually it discovers your source system, essentially pulls all the information to its local database, gives you the opportunity to manipulate your dial plans. If it's a single cluster, you can simply clone your dial plan to the cloud. If you're looking at multiple clusters, then it's a case of you may want to use templates. Well, you have to use templates because you can clone, because now you'll have a dial plan overflow or overlap, which is an ugly thing indeed, and you want to avoid that. So once you've done all that, a Migration Assistant is going to push that information to the cloud, and then it even has some tests to make sure that what it's pushed is what you intended to push. And then a very nice thing about it, it has an ITL reset, initial trust list reset. So that's the certificate trust on the phone. It'll reset that. And so the phone is now able to pull down the certificate from the UCM cluster in the cloud, trust it, and get the configuration from it. So now all the admins are happy because they don't have to go around manually to thousands of phones and reset the security list on each of those phones. And so that's in very broad strokes what's going to happen and what the flow looks like. So watch the space, and we've got more information about it at Ask UCM Cloud Help.
That sounds fantastic, Patrick. I mean, that migration assistant sounds like it covers all the key bases there. Does it do anything with regards to data integrity verification? Because I suspect most systems out there have some data that you wouldn't necessarily want to port over to the cloud, things that aren't completed out there.
Well, that depends, of course. It depends who you ask, because most systems, as you point out, are old or aged or advanced in years, whichever way. They potentially have multiple system admins working on them. System admins who may have been schooled in different places and have different theories about the way things need to be organized, and each one will change. And so we do have the concept of garbage out equals garbage in. Now's a really good time to do some spring cleaning, if you will. So if you choose, as I say, you can literally take what you've got on premises and push it into the cloud. We don't recommend that. So what you do is you pull it to the Migration Assistant utility, and you can look through stuff, and it'll do things like make sure everybody's got a valid E164 number, or you can disable it, make sure everybody's got an email address, things like that. It doesn't do everything, but it does a lot. And essentially, basically anything that's accessible via an Axel call, Migration Assistant will pull that with Axel and have it local for you to essentially have a chance at normalizing the data before you push it up if you choose. But you can just say ignore and push it up as bad as it is. Garbage in equals garbage out if you want.
Excellent. All right. And so it sounds like the UCM Cloud Migration Assistant gives us the ability to port our data from our UCM system on premises. It gives us the ability to look at the data that's being ported over, and then allows us to verify whether in fact we want that information to go forward or not, and if we want to make some adjustments, gives us the flexibility to do that. So it sounds like we've got speed, we've got really accuracy going on with this data, and then we've also got a fair amount of flexibility with regard to what data we port over or not. So as we've gone through this step, what happens next? What after we go through the data transfer from UCM on premises to the UCM cloud? What's the next step?
It's interesting that you ask, because now you essentially got two parallel systems. You got your existing one on premises and you got your one in the cloud. And until you do that ITL reset on the phones, and until you change your DNS server, different service when the devices do a service discovery, you got two parallel systems and everybody's still registered to your on-premises environment. Once you do that change, your phones will now be, or your endpoints will be registered to the cloud, and your on-premises system stays in place running. So at that point, you can shut it down if you choose. You can repurpose it if you choose. Or if you're an advanced user, you could actually configure it and then set up a trunk, and now you've got two clusters, one on-prem and one in the cloud, if you will. So those essentially, it's up to you. There are so many ways of solving for this problem. We're willing to assist and advise, and there's partners, of course, that will do the same. So there's many options.
So now it sounds like we're ready to go into the testing of call flows, testing of workflows where we have application integrations.
Absolutely. Yeah, good thing. I implied that was already done, but I didn't say so. So essentially, just before you do the ITL reset, if you refer to that document, I spoke about the migration, the manual migration document, which I'll be revising soon to include information with respect to the migration assistant. But the latter steps of that document are actually, before you do that full ITL reset, you manually register one or two devices to the cloud, to your new UCM cloud cluster, and make sure that they work. And of course, registering is only a tiny fraction of the thing. What you really need to do is go back to the documentation and the notes that we recommended you take in sections 1, 2, and 3 of the series, where we said, what's your user experience? Look at what's important to the workflow of the user that sits at the desk. They're not a technical person. How do they pick up? How do they answer? How do they transfer? How do they dial long distance? How do they dial local? All those things. Those are the kinds of tests you need to make sure that came across. So when they pick up their phone on Monday morning, if you've done a flash cut over the weekend, the behavior is identical. Assuming that's all done, all that good testing is done of the end user experience, that's when you should pull the trigger and essentially do the full ITL reset and get all the devices over. And then, of course, if you've got things like MRA, mobile remote access, make sure that you can, join from your favorite coffee shop and things like that, all before the users run into any issues. But essentially, remember, it's just another UCM. It's just located somewhere else. It's still your network. It's your IP addressing space. Everything is yours. So if you had integrations working before and you configure them in the UCM cluster, there's no magic. There's no real difference. This is the beauty of this cloud service. It is a cloud service, but it's the service you know and love and understand.
Exactly. Yes, that's great. And what I'm really excited about by the Migration Assistant tool is the fact that it really ensures that your data is coming over from your existing system to the cloud, and it's coming over with speed, accuracy, flexibility, so that you're gonna have the cloud experience that is going to have that familiar ring, that familiar feel to it that you've been using, and yet now it's a cloud service. So your IT organization is going to have a lot more flexibility with their time spent as they go forward. So that's a quick wrap up of the cloud migration strategy here. What Cisco is doing for you here is ensuring that your cloud migration and your cloud journey is a smooth one, is a safe one, is a secure one, and most importantly, a successful one, so that you're going to have a cloud experience that's going to marry closest to your existing on-premises system, and at the same time give you the flexibility to change and expand where that makes the most sense for your business. Where you found this video, we have a series of content available for you, including the cloud transition guide that Patrick was just describing to you, resources describing where to find the best information for Cisco UCM Cloud and HCS solutions. And we look forward to helping you through your cloud journey. I thank you for joining us on this video series. Patrick, thanks for being here with me today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and I hope you have a great journey, and let Cisco help you move to the cloud with the smoothest transition out there. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Hello, everybody. See you next time. Thank you. I shall not. See you next time.